Hello, everyone. Welcome to Todd Talks. I am joined by our lead writer, James Haeck, and the writer of many a D&D book, and we are analyzing Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and the subclasses in there. And we're starting off with the Artificer Armorer. I am a massive fan of this for several reasons. Iron Man might be one of them. The Mandalorian might be another. But this is one of those artificers that has made a lot of sense to include in D&D. It definitely fills a niche that many D&D players or anyone wanting to play any fantasy setting would like to play. So first off, what do you feel is unique about the Artificer Armorer that we find in Tasha's?
Well, I think it almost goes without saying that ever since we first saw the Armorer Artificer in Unearthed Arcana, it's been one of the most wanted subclasses that has made its way to this book.
Hotly anticipated.
I'm really happy we get to talk about it. The Artificer itself as a class, it's the newest class in D&D, the 13th class, lucky 13, and it is a magic item creator. And this Armorer is a specialization of that sort of broad idea of creating magical gear that really delves into creating a suit of power armor for yourself. The book says that this armor functions almost like a second skin, and it hones your magic, it unleashes powerful attacks, and generates defense as well. And it's really quite versatile, so let's dive right into it. Its first feature, Tools of the Trade, makes you a heavily armored juggernaut, right? This is all about armor. You wanna be able to wear and use the armor.
Very much helps to know how to do that. And you have to remember you're an artificer, so chances are your smith tools proficiency bonus will be doubled at some point.
Yep.
Which makes you even more effective and quite good at making some magical items down the road, perhaps.
Yes, this is the sort of thing where if you've just bought Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and you're delving into the Artificer class, I really want to encourage you to check out the magic item creation rules in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, the previous big rules expansion for D&D, because any artificer, especially once they get to level 10 and start really getting magic item creation stuff online, you want to know what you can do with downtime and money to make those magic items.
And again, really, when you look at other artificer abilities like Flash of Genius, which you can add to any of your skill checks, this really is kind of a Tony Stark character. I think we all know what this was patterned after to an extent, but also at third level, Smith tools, fantastic to have. But you also get a certain set of magical item. I mean, you get a certain set of spells that are very much unique to the armorer.
Yeah, so the whole conceit of the Artificer class is that your spells aren't necessarily speaking magic words and waving your fingers to create bursts of energy like a wizard might, but rather you're on the fly in matters of seconds, creating or deploying little devices that you've already made to have magical effects. And you're using not a wand or an arcane staff or crystal to create these effects, but you're using your tools. So you're using those smith's tools that you've already gained this level to hammer out little magic missiles that will shoot and explode like crackers when they hit someone. And so as you level up, you get these new spells. Let's just run through them real quick, yeah?
Yeah. So Magic Missile makes a ton of sense for this type of character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you can kind of imagine like a compartment in your armor opening up and just these magical fireflies just shoot out like darts.
I can see someone like making a little finger gun and their armor just kind of clicks open and a little pew 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 shoots right out of your pointer finger, Yeah,
that's really like the imagery. There's all kinds of like really fun, fantastical things, or like they shoot out your eyes, or like a little turret pops up and just goes, and they all like zip around in weird, haphazard directions and still hit their target.
The next spell you get at this level, Thunder Wave, it's easy to, once again, like think about Iron Man, you put your palms forward and a little thing revs up in your palms and boom, there's like a pulse field that shoots people away.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. We've seen this with the Iron Man armor. It is interesting to note that, we're getting Thunder Wave, which is fantastic. Plus, Thunder, AC/DC. When you consider you are losing Shield as a spell, and that was in the Unearthed Arcana. I feel like that's fair because the Artificer armor is already I imagine you're trying to get your way to full plate pretty quick. And
Yeah.
if you've got full plate and a physical manifestation of a shield that is like a repulsor shield, your armor is already so high. If you're like stacking a +5 as a reaction, you're untouchable.
And you're probably taking Artificer infusions from like the broad class that are giving you bonuses to your defense as well. I mean, having shield on top of all of that is, on one hand, ridiculous. On the other hand, it's almost like there's diminishing returns at that point. Your AC is already like 21 or something. Do you really need it to be 26?
Yeah, do you need it to be 26? And also, you have temporary hit points involved in this equation as well. But let's go to the 5th level spells.
Yeah, there's a lot of spells here. We probably shouldn't get bogged down too much in them, so maybe just to kind of pound them out here.
I'm a little surprised about Mirror Image. It was on Unearthed Arcana. I love Mirror Image. This is a super tanky spell. It's fantastic if you take the Sentinel feat and you mix it with that, because if they attack one of your mirror images, they technically did target someone who is not you, which means you as a Sentinel can use your reaction to attack them. It's a really fun thing to do. I love Mirror Image. You do need to be very present as a player when you're using that spell. I will say, don't put too much on your dungeon master to handle Mirror Image and the complexities of that necessarily.
We'll get back to this in a sec when we talk about arcane armor, but the armor is actually a very versatile character, and Mirror Image plays really well to both the heavy tanking and also stealthy bamboozling sort of style of this class. Also, you can either be double teaming opponents or defending your friends with them. It's very reflexive and quite fun. Yeah,
I like it. That's what I love about this, is that they could have just gone this very tanky type character, right? And they decide to give you kind of two options in this subclass. Shatter is another one. This is another like sound-based one. I feel like this is incredibly appropriate. It does some decent damage. You can basically shatter a bunch of things around you. So I think that's a great spell. The next up, we've got Hypnotic Pattern.
Very interesting one. It's one of the things that you might look at and say, I don't understand quite how that fits. But sometimes the incongruity is a little bit of a fun puzzle that you can figure out yourself. You create a twisting pattern of colors that confuses people, charms them in an area. I can imagine you almost just like shooting a beam out of your chest or something that just kind of dazzles opponents in a bright flash of light, like you've turned your headlights on all of a sudden.
Yeah, it could be kind of a flash grenade, right? You could experience that way. Or you have like a swirling pattern that does, that breaks out of a box that like, dazzles the enemy, or a laser light show.
And flavor aside, this is just another good tanking tool in your tool belt. This is a very tanky class, and because they don't exactly have the hit points of a barbarian, right? Artificers have D8 hit points. They need fun little tricks like this that will kind of keep them from just being mobbed and annihilated. This is a good sort of AoE lockdown spell for them.
Now, Lightning Bolt, that makes me very excited. Lightning Bolt is right up there with Fireball in terms of just being part of the identity of D&D. Wizards of the Coast has flat out said, purposely they've made these spells a little more powerful than other spells because they are fundamental to the identity of this game. So having Lightning Bolt, awesome. Plus, destroying all your enemies in a row, always hilarious. So
I like imagining one of their next spells, Fire Shield, is like a literal firewall. Like you've got viruses going for computer, and you just here comes the actual Fire Shield. Greater invisibility. It works well with the stealthy part of this character, and they get some really interesting ones at the top tier at 17th level. Pass Wall. I love how it's almost like your power armor is like a second skin for you. Now the walls themselves, you just kind of meld through them as the armor warps space around you.
Yeah, like it's phasing you in and out, almost like the villain from Ant-Man 2. I like it. And again, this is we do see this very healthy separation between the kind of infiltrator and the more tanky guardian.
Yeah, actually, these two wall spells emulated perfectly. Pass Wall for sneaking, Wall of Force for defending. It's a clear division.
Right. And now that brings us to the good stuff. arcane
It's like
armor.
Wall of Force. It's also a clear division.
Yes.
Anyway.
Wow. Show canceled.
Arcane armor. Let's move on.
All right. So at third level, of course, you get your arcane armor. That is part of your identity as this artificer. Provide you can work on this armor, provided you have smith tools, which is kind of important for this class. If the armor normally has any kind of strength requirement, the arcane armor lacks this requirement for you. This means you can definitely make strength a dump stat. On top of that, later on your infusions, I will say, you can make yourself a belt of giant strength or whatever to enhance your strength if you really want it. You can use this arcane armor as a spellcasting focus. That's exactly what we're talking about here. For this subclass, that makes sense. If you're shooting lightning bolts, you don't want to have a wand. You want it to be like shooting out of a gem in your chest or something like that, right? The armor attaches to you and cannot be removed against your will. I really like this because it's so fundamental to who you are as a class. I mean, I don't think it's abusive by any means. You can retract your helmet as well as your armor using a bonus action. And this is the quirky part, the armor replaces any missing limbs functionally identically to the limb that you lose.
I think that's super cool.
It's so cool. I love like the big boss battle and your arm gets cut off and your armor is like, whatever, I got you.
Coming right back.
Pops it right back.
Mm-hmm.
You can don and doff the armor as an action. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to briefly touch on, there's been a lot of really good discussion in the D&D community lately about disabled adventurers. There's been a lot of talk about the combat wheelchair and so forth. And the topic of prosthesis, prosthetics that are, functionally identical to real limbs is always a bit of a thorny subject. But I think if this is a direction you want to go in, this is a very cool way to lean into that, of an adventurer who has, they've seen dangers mortals can only dream of, and in a truly dark and gritty setting, they've probably taken some real damage from it.
And that's why I've always liked this for, a god who has fallen is now mortal, or a wizard that no longer has a connection to the weave. Well, they've created armor as also like a prosthetic to their connection to the weave. In a similar way, like, well, I can no longer cast lightning bolt using my spell components and all this other stuff, and with magic as I know it, but what if I build it, right? So we've got at third level the armor model. Can you walk us through this? This is a lot of stuff at third level, by the way.
Yeah, these are 4 features at third level, and some of them are quite small, but this one is not. Armor model is a very cool one. It's a 2 feature in 1 deal. When you put on your armor or finish a short or long rest, you can change the model of your armor to either Guardian or Infiltrator. And Guardian is your classic Iron Man sort of power suit. Think like Iron Man or Samus from Metroid, or maybe even little Master Chief from Halo, any sort of power armor guy.
Anyone who can fall from space,
right,
still be okay.
And this is your tanking mode. You get thunder gauntlets that let you bash monsters' faces in, dealing thunder damage on a hit. You don't have to use... I was about to say you don't have to use strength, but I think that might not be true. It's a simple melee weapon that you can use, and it deals thunder damage.
You do not. I don't believe that you do use strength when using the thunder gauntlets.
Okay.
I believe you are using intelligence, if I am correct. What's nice about that feature is a creature hit by the gauntlet has disadvantage on attack rolls against targets that are not you, which makes you the target. It's a nice distraction. Again, we're doubling down on this whole idea of being the tank.
It's a little taunt feature, which doesn't often appear in D&D, so it's quite a good one. And also, there's a defensive field. As a bonus action, you can gain temporary hit points equal to your artificer level. Every single turn is a bonus action. If you want to use it, you can just a little bit more hit points. Now, these temporary hit points disappear first before your normal hit points. Awesome. And and you can only use this bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. So it's not a total infinite hit point situation.
It's a quite a few, and it is a great reason to use your bonus action for this particular artificer, who may not have a lot of bonus action options. So this is like, I mean, why wouldn't you do it? And yes, your intelligence is actually used for your weapons when wearing this armor. So your intelligence modifier is what is determining all of that. So you don't need to worry about dexterity or strength in that regard either.
Nice.
So that brings us to the infiltrator, which I'm so glad they include that, because you know, if you've ever played any JRPGs, you know, there's a lot of stealth. There's these very awesome, like, cyber ninja type characters, right? And Infiltrator kind of hones in on that kind of fantasy.
Yeah.
Go ahead and walk us through the Infiltrator.
I like this one a lot because it's less obvious, right? The Guardian, it makes sense. You wear heavy armor, you do cool stuff that tanks. This is more unique, I think. So first of all, you get a lightning launcher, either on your chest or on your fists, that lets you shoot lightning out of your armor, and it has a sort of gentle sneak attack like effect. The first time on your turn that you hit a creature with it, you do extra lightning damage. Its damage is a little bit low, but that kind of helps bump it up a little bit. Your walking speed increases by 5 feet. Not usually a big deal, but you never know. And finally, there's a dampening field that gives you advantage on dexterity stealth checks. And if the armor is the clanky sort that usually imposes disadvantage on stealth, they cancel each other out as normal, making it a flat roll.
I like this change quite a bit. And originally it was just that you don't have disadvantage when you are wearing you know, heavy armor. This is a little bit different from Unearthed Arcana. You know, like you said, you now have advantage on stealth checks. So if you decide to maybe just wear breastplate, you know, which is, you know, a very specific, you know, decision. This makes you have the option to be the stealthy character in this situation, coupled with flash of genius. You're looking at someone who's very proficient into getting in and out of situations.
Yeah.
And if you want to get that expert, you know, a feat that gives you some form of expertise as well, you can just focus in and hone in on maybe just one armor type.
Yep. So we love the versatility of the armor here, and this just encapsulates it perfectly.
You really get to own your. I mean, I gotta say, there's nothing less stealthy than lightning. I might flavor the lightning as being this kind of dim reddish lightning or dark cyan, you know, type of lightning that's being shot out that maybe doesn't make a bright flash. So
I can imagine taking Shocking Grasp as an artificer cantrip and having it be like your handheld taser.
Oh,
you
walk
walk
like
up
that.
behind a gun, you go,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that's a nice extent. That's like you just pressing that gem in your hand against the target,
right against their back. Yeah,
instead of doing it ranged. I think that makes a lot of sense. 5th level will get extra attack. That's fantastic, especially when you're tanking. This means that you got more options to hit targets, give them disadvantage at hitting your friends, and also, hey, more lightning launching. So that makes me happy. But walk us through armor modifications.
Yeah, your 9th level feature. You learn how to use your artificer infusions to specially modify your arcane armor. Your artificer infusions are kind of what you use to turn normal items into magical ones. And so now your armor, instead of being kind of all one thing, is now separate items for the purposes of your infusions. There's a chest piece, boots, helmet, and your gauntlet weapons, your lightning launcher, your thunder gauntlets. And each one of those items can bear an infusion. And on top of that, you can infuse more items than usual, but they must be part of your armor. This is kind of one of the bits where if I'm just explaining it to you, you might not get it. The Artificer is I think, without question, the most complicated class in D&D. And this is one of the things we have to be like, okay, wait, I have 2 extra infusions, but I can only use it for the armor, and the armor counts as 4 pieces. This is a class that rewards people who really like to think in depth about the mechanics of their character. And if that turns you off, it's not for everyone. But if you're that kind of person, it's very, very fun to really micromanage your armor, I think.
I do have to say, I already played an armor, and I did find myself just kind of integrating that stuff into my armor as flavor anyways. It's nice that this is kind of outlined in more specifics. That's important because, flat out, your armor cannot be taken off of you. So saying that these magical items and infusions you have can't be taken off of you as well is great. It's an advantage. Plus, getting 2 more extra items to add to your arcane armor, that makes a lot of sense.
Pretty great. And finally, perfected armor. This one is divided between the Guardian and Infiltrator forms. Do you want to talk about the Guardian one, Todd?
Yeah, and I see perfected armor as Mark 52, Mark 122 of the Iron Man armor. You get perfected armor as the Guardian. When a huge or smaller creature you see ends its turn within 30 feet of you, you can actually use your reaction to force that creature to make a strength saving throw against your spell save DC. This will pull the creature 30 feet towards you to an unoccupied space. If you pull the target to a space within 5 feet of you, you can make a melee weapon attack as part of this reaction. You can use this reaction a number of times equal to your proficiency modifier. You're going to hear this a lot in Tashas. And you gain all expended uses of this if you finish a long rest. I love this. This is the tankiest of all tanky things. I like the idea that, this sun beam or this piece of lightning shoots off of your armor, grabs the target, or maybe you shoot a grappling hook or whatever, however you want to envision it. It's very Scorpion, come over here.
Yeah.
They come flying towards you and you just punch them and knock them down.
Man, if you've played a MOBA in the past 10 years, you'll know that this is a signature tank ability. We're talking about Blitzcrank, we're talking about Roadhog. I mean, the tank wants you to get over there in front of you, the big wall of meat, instead of the squishy wizard in the back rank. And then you get a free attack against them, which works on the Thunder Gauntlets, giving them disadvantage on everyone except for you. This is, look at me, I'm the only guy in this combat. Pay attention to me. And that's exactly what you want.
It does kind of make me laugh at the similarities to Sentinel in a way, right? So if you, again, I feel like the Sentinel feat, it's a missed opportunity if you're not taking it with this type of tank. So tell me about the perfected armor infiltrator.
Yes. So while you're in your infiltration form, any creature that takes lightning damage from your lightning launcher glimmers with magical light until the start of your next turn. They shed dim light. They have disadvantage against attack rolls against you as the light jolts if it attacks you. In addition, the next attack roll against it has advantage, and if that attack hits, the target takes an extra 1d6 lightning damage. So breaking that down, it's in some ways the opposite of the Guardian form. Rather than intentionally funneling attacks at you, it's funneling attacks away from you. And it also has a sort of guiding bolt-like effect on it that encourages enemies, or that encourages you to be like, I've marked this guy, everyone let's take this guy down, and then someone else can hit him with a real big swing.
And I like the flavor also of maybe you don't ever need to talk. Because you're communicating.
Your little laser pointer. Yeah.
Okay, you're punching people. Those people are probably not a threat to me right now. And then you light somebody up like this. Hey, look at that big glowing red target. That's who I want you to fight. It's silent communication in what effects you're using with this armor, and I love it. And I love guiding bolt. It's great. So
yeah, and because of the way that it works, it doesn't fully fairy fire illuminate invisible opponents, but it does always let your allies know exactly where invisible foes are because there's a little radius glow around them.
Yes, I think it's fantastic, and I like all of it. I like the additions to it. I feel like already in Unearthed Arcana, it was already pretty much there in terms of a subclass, and in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. I think this is just a fantastic addition to D&D. It is, I know I say this often, is one of my favorite subclasses You're going to hear that a lot, but this is my favorite artificer. I think the artillerist is fantastic, but like this is that dream.
I think
right?
far and away this is my favorite artificer too. The artificers are all very fun. I like the battlesmith a lot. It's my number 2, but they're so tight together. I could hardly be asked to pick, but this is number 1.
Yeah, it's really fun. If you want that Iron Man fantasy, if you want that Mandalorian Boba Fett fantasy, if you want to have that stealthy infiltrator ghost from StarCraft kind of feel, like you can kind of do everything with this. You can shimmer away and become invisible and turn all your friends invisible and sneak into something, or you can be the one who's fighting a mad titan. You have all those options with this, and I really, again, I can't emphasize, I love that they give you 2 options in how to play this subclass. You can just change and decide what kind of day you're going to have. So I love that. Thank you, everyone, for watching Todd Talks with myself and James Haeck. James Haeck is our lead writer over at D&D Beyond and the writer of many a D&D book. I am the creative manager over at D&D Beyond. Go check out Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is available on D&D Beyond right now. It also, if you happen to order it before January 5th, I believe, there are all sorts of additional things you get, such as Cauldron dice, and also some cool like skins, backgrounds, and frames as well. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.
Till next time.
Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is available now on D&D Beyond. Purchase before January 5th to unlock the Cauldron dice set, as well as character sheet backdrops, themes, and frames.